Now let us see what is the relationship between fundamental rights and directive principles of state policy. We will see why so much friction is there between two constitutional provisions. We will also see some of the famous Supreme Court cases, and we will see what is the present relationship between fundamental rights and directive principles of state policy. Please stay attentive in the class because people have a lot of confusion with respect to this particular topic, and I told you that this is the most important topic of DPSP. So let us first start and let us scan how fundamental rights are different from directive principles of a state policy. So fundamental rights have been given in part 3 and directive principles of a state policy have been given in part 4. The very first difference is that fundamental rights are negative in nature. Negative in the sense they try to curtail the power of state. They put a check on the state. A state shall not discriminate on the basis of caste or religion. A state shall not discriminate on the basis of providing public employment. So, fundamental rights puts negative obligation towards duty of the state. But directive principles provides positive obligation towards the duty of a state. That a state should do this, a state should promote village panchayat, a state should go for uniform civil code. So fundamental rights is all about negative obligation and directive principles, this is all about positive obligation. Second basic difference you all know, fundamental rights are justiciable in nature. In case of violation of fundamental rights, you can approach Supreme Court under Article 32 and High Court under Article 226. But in case of violation of directive principles of state policy, there is no legal mechanism, it has no legal backing, it cannot be enforced in any court of land. Third difference is fundamental rights is all about individual. So what is the right of an Indian citizen? That is about fundamental rights. But if we talk about directive principles of state policy, then we will see here that it talks about community. That is, the state should uplift the position of scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, weaker section. State should work for workers. State should work for women. State should work for child. So fundamental rights speaks about individual, but directive principles speaks about community and groups. The next difference is that fundamental rights aims to promote what? Political democracy. However, directive principles of state policy aims to promote social and economic democracy. The next differentiation is that fundamental rights are automatically implemented. There is no requirement of providing separate provision or separate law. If there is Article 15, then Article 15 stands on its own. There is no requirement of providing any separate provision for Article 15. But in directive principles of state policy, if the government want to actualize or translate any of the directives, then a law has to be there. It will have to bring some law, some legal mechanism to translate that into action. The last difference is about views of court, that is interpretation of court. So if any law of state legislature or parliament violates any of the fundamental rights, then the court is bound to declare that particular law as unconstitutional. But if that law violates directive principles, then that law cannot be held to be unconstitutional. But at the same time, court can analyze directive principles of state policy in the sense that if a particular law has been brought by parliament or state legislature to actualize any one of the directives of DPSP, then court might uphold that law as constitutional. So this is about fundamental rights and directive principles, the basic differences. Now let us see why so much friction between the two. The friction is because of the very first thing is that fundamental rights and directive principles both have antagonistic relationship. How come? Because fundamental rights on the one hand say that a state shall not discriminate for distribution of public jobs, public employment. But directive principles speak that state can provide some affirmative action, some positive discrimination to uplift any socially excluded classes. So naturally, these two particular provisions of Constitution bound to clash. For example, this is particularly very much applicable in case of right to property. So earlier there used to be right to property, a fundamental right under Article 31. So right to property gives an Indian citizen right to property. But directive principles on the other hand gives a space to socialism, that is there should be equal distribution of property. So you can see that both these provisions have antagonistic relationship, and that is why since enactment of Indian Constitution, that is right from 1915, there have been so many cases of frictions between fundamental rights and directive principles. Now, why so many frictions were there? The frictions were there because of simple reason, because of a logical question that which is more superior, whether it is fundamental right or whether it is directive principles of a state policy. Because I told you that both in fundamental rights and DPSP, definition of a state is same, and since definition of a state is same, so what a state should do? A state should give preference to fundamental rights, or a state should give preference to DPSP. So this particular question has caused the friction. So let us start scanning the frictions, and let us see what were the interpretations, the judgment of Supreme Court. So the very first case is related to Champakam Dorairanjan case 1951. Now, what happened in this particular case? In this particular case, this case was basically related to reservation, and this was the first case in the in the Supreme Court related to reservation. In this judgment, in this case, Supreme Court gave judgment that fundamental rights are superior to directive principles of state policy. And if any institution of a state passes any law to give life to any provision of DPSP, and if that provision violates fundamental rights, then that will not be constitutionally valid, because fundamental rights are superior to directive principles of a state policy, and DPSP as a principle is subsidiary to fundamental rights, told by Supreme Court in Champakaram Dorairanjan case 1951. However, Supreme Court in this case said that if a state want to give life to directive principles, and that particular principle is disturbing fundamental rights, then state the parliament has the right to amend fundamental rights. That means court said if you want to disturb fundamental rights, you have the power to go for amendment of fundamental rights. So first go for amendment of fundamental rights, and then bring any directive principles of a state policy into life. That is why Parliament of India passed first, fourth and seventh Constitutional Amendment Act to give life to one of the provisions of DPSP. So things went very well up to 1974, but in 1967 a famous case came, that is Golak Nath case. Now Golak Nath, this person was basically a landlord, and the tussle was between right to property and directive principles. Now let's see what happened in this particular case. So what I told you, that in Champakam case, Supreme Court said fundamental rights are superior and Parliament has the right to amend fundamental rights. But in this Golak Nath case 1967, Supreme Court said that fundamental rights are sacrosanct in nature. It means that Parliament cannot amend fundamental rights, and fundamental rights are not only superior but super superior to directive principles of a state policy. The status of fundamental rights are so superior to DPSP that even Parliament cannot touch the fundamental right. Doesn't matter that Parliament, whatever be the intention of Parliament, or whatever be the intention of Parliament as far as actualization of DPSP is concerned. All right. So you can see that in Golaknath case, Supreme Court directly reversed the case in this particular Champakam case. So that is why to nullify this, or we can say to dilute this judgment of Supreme Court, Parliament came with two amendments, that is 24th Constitutional Amendment Act and 25th Constitutional Amendment Act. Now 24th Amendment Act said that Parliament has the right to amend fundamental rights, because in Golaknath case Supreme Court said Parliament cannot amend fundamental rights, but Parliament brought 24th Amendment Act, and now Parliament said that Parliament can amend fundamental rights. And in 25th Constitutional Amendment Act, Parliament brought a provision, that is Article 31C. Now Article 31C had two provisions, provision number 1 and provision number 2. Okay. Now first provision of Article 31C said that if Parliament brings any law to give life to directive principles under 39B and 39C, and by bringing these directives into motion, if that law disturbs Article 14, 19 or 31 of fundamental rights, then Parliament has that right. Alright, now have patience. What is 39 and 39B? 39B of Directive Principle says that state should do what? State should promote equally material resources. And article this 39C says that state should stop the concentration of wealth. In short, 39B and 39C are symbol of socialism. What is Article 14? Right to equality. Article 19, right to freedom. Article 31, fundamental right to property. So the first provision of 31C says that if Parliament will bring any law to actualize these socialist principle, and if that law will disturb Article 14, 19 and 31 of fundamental rights, then that law will not be constitutionally invalid. Parliament has right to bring that such laws. Are you getting my point? Now, the second provision was little problematic. In second provision, what second provision 31C says that if Parliament bring any such law, then court will have no power to review that law. So here Parliament in 25th Constitutional Amendment Act tries to put a blanket ban over court with its power of judicial review under Article 13 also and under Article 32 also. So I hope you are getting this. Now come to Keshav Nanda Bharti case 1973. Again, one of the most popular cases of Supreme Court. In Keshav Nanda Bharti case 1973, what Supreme Court said that first provision, that is if Parliament want to bring some law actualizing 39B and 39C, that's okay, we have no problem in that. But in Keshav Nanda Bharti case, Supreme Court said that second provision, which puts a check on the judicial review power of court, is unconstitutional, because judicial review is basic structure of Indian Constitution, and Parliament cannot take the basic structure of Indian Constitution, and so Parliament has no right to take away the power of judicial review from Supreme Court. All right. So I hope up to this things are clear to you. Now comes 42nd Amendment Act of 1976 under Indira Gandhi. Now what Indira Gandhi says that it's not only about directive principles in 39B and C, but if government wants to give life to any of the principles of DPSP, and if the principles disturbs Article 14, 19 or 31, then the law of parliament will function and all the directive principles will prevail over Article 40, 19 and 31. In short, in case of in this 25th Amendment Act, the Parliament said that only Article 39B and C will prevail over Article 40, 19 and 31. But now in 42nd Amendment Act, Parliament says all principles of DPSP will prevail over Article 40, 19 and 31. So I hope this is clear to you. Now, in 44th Constitutional Amendment Act, post-emergency government, it abolished Article 31 as right to property. So up to this, whatever debates we have seen with respect to Article 14, 19 and 31, 31 is now no more. So which two articles will remain now? Article 14 and Article 19. So in Minerva Mill case of 1980, Supreme Court said that the power of Parliament, which Parliament has just exhibited or just expelled, that all DPSP, all provisions of DPSP will be superior to fundamental rights is unconstitutional and void. In short, in Minerva Mill case 1980, Supreme Court said that fundamental rights are superior to directive principles of state policy. However, if Parliament want to give life to Article 39 and Article 39B and C of DPSP, then that will work if it disturbs Article 14 and Article 19 of fundamental rights. In short, as per in Minerva Mill case, as per Supreme Court, fundamental rights are supreme in comparison to directive principles of state policy, but that doesn't mean that a state has no right to give life to DPSP. DPSP can be given life, but again the basic structure of Indian Constitution should not be disturbed. So now the present case is that fundamental rights are superior to DPSP, but if the government wants to give life to Article 39B and C of Directive Principles of State Policy, then it can disturb 14 or 19. Supreme Court will not come into picture. Also in this Minerva Mill case, Supreme Court said that fundamental rights and DPSP both are important provisions of Indian Constitution and both are like two wheels of a chariot. That means the Constitution cannot function properly if there is imbalance between the two, and the Constitution has to work in harmony between fundamental rights and directive principles of state policy, not in disharmony. So the case is now settled, there is no friction, relationship is of harmony in nature, of balanced in nature. That's all. So I hope that the things are clear to you. So we'll see you in the next class. Thank you very much.